Hello and welcome to Perfect Glamour Fashion. Today we're learning how to draft a basic bodice block. Hi guys, welcome to today's tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to make a basic skirt block. First thing to do is to create your frame, and how to create your frame is to divide your hip measurement, your hip circumference by 2 and mark. This frame will contain both your front measurement and your back measurement. When you're done doing that, the next thing you're going to do is to divide what you have in that space by 2, or divide your hip measurement by 4 and mark. This is going to help you divide the frame by 2. So one part, the part facing towards me, would be the front part, and the part face away from me would be the back part. The reason why you're using that other side for the back part is because you're going to be adding your zipper allowance, so you want to have enough space for your zip allowance. Now we're focusing on the front. The first thing we're going to be doing for the front is to mark the hip depth. The hip depth is the measurement from your waist to hip. Your waist to hip is different things for different people. Some persons it's 8, it's 9. So measure for your customer. But if you've never measured before, you might have to use 9 or 8. So between 9 and 8 is quite standard. The next thing I'm going to be marking is my hemline. So that is the skirt, the length of your skirt. You're going to mark the length of your skirt and then draw a straight line. I usually mark in at two different points so that I can achieve a straight line. Now that we are done doing that, I'm labeling my lines. That's the waistline, that's the hip line, and that is the hemline. These are the 3 measurements you need to achieve a good skirt block. The next thing we're going to be doing is to be marking the waist circumference. Now you're going to be marking that. Usually that is your nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, but for skirt you can use 4 inch. 4 inch is quite standard, so you mark 4 inch and rule by 4 inches. So it is 4 inch width and 4 inch length for an average person. So you're going to mark ½ inch on both sides and connect to the end of the line. This will help you form your 1 inch dart. So ½ inch on the right side and ½ inch on the left side of the dart. When we are done doing that, the next thing we are going to be doing is to mark our waist circumference. Your waist circumference is marked by dividing your waist into 4. I usually use my tape for these divisions, so in case you don't have a calculator close to you, you can just manually use your tape, just fold it in 4 places and then mark what you have. Then I'm going to be when I've marked, I'm going to add 1 inch allowance for that. Remember, whenever you remove a dart, you must add it back. Now I'm going to connect what I have with either a straight ruler or a curved ruler. But if you're using a curved ruler, don't make it too curvy so that it don't start puffing out by the time you are done making the dress. So I'm going to connect it to my hip line. Remember, I've already marked hip divided by 4. That's how we got this particular frame. The next place we're going to be focusing on is on the hem. On the side, from the side, they're going to be coming in by 2 inches. Depending on how pencil you want the skirt to be. If you don't want it to be too pencil, you can come in by 1 inch. But if you want it to be really fitted, you come in by 2 inches. But if you want it on the average, you can come in. So between 1 inch and 2 inches is pretty good. But if you want it to be really penciled and fitted, you come in by 2 inches. Now we are done with our hemline. All I'm just doing is to finish up the measurement line with a straight line on the hem side. So now we are going back to the back. So for the back, remember to mark your back measurements from the side away from you. So the first thing I'm going to be marking is our waistline. I'm going to mark our waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that. Next up, I'm going to be marking our darts. Our dart is also going to be, you're going to come in by 4, but you go down by 5 this time around. And then I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides and connect to form my dart. Remember, you're coming in by 4, but you're going down by 5. 5 for the back, 4 for the front, but 5 for the back. Next up, I'm going to be connecting what I have, the marks I have. I'm going to be connecting my waist to the hip. Already you used the hip to divide the frame, so you already have your hip divided by 4. Next thing, from the side of the back now, I'm going to go in by 2 inches, just the way we did for the front, to form the curve for the knee curve. And then I'm finishing up the line. We are pretty done. All I'm doing now is to trim out the edges to avoid it popping out when the sharp ends, to avoid it popping out when we are done sewing. Next, I'm going to be adding my sewing allowance. Sewing allowance is dependent on you. Whatever is my zip allowance, is dependent on you. I use 1 inch for my zip allowance, but if I'm going to be using a lining for the skirt, I'm going to be using 1.5 inch. So I will use ½ inch to turn in my lining, and then use 1 inch for my zip and for my slits. Next, I'm going to just finish up my lines, and we are done for the back. So what I'm now doing is to label my zip allowance, and then I am pretty done with my front and my back, guys. Right now we have our basic bodice block. If you've watched this video to this point, I bet you like the video. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, ask your questions on the comment section, and subscribe to this channel. We release videos every single week, just to make sure that you perfect the act of sewing. Welcome, guys. All right, what I'm doing right now is to cut up my pattern. I'm going to be showing you for this particular pattern. I didn't use a waistband for it. I didn't use band for it. But if you're going to be using a band, I'm going to show you exactly how you can get your accurate band, and that's exactly what I'm showing you here. Guys, I also did a butt lift tutorial. Yes, how you can contour your bum. That's the reason why you're seeing that our back piece is looking different from our basic bodice block, and the video is right here on this channel, so go there. I'm going to link it in the description box. So what I'm doing for the band is to go down by whatever I want the band to be. If you want it to be 1 inch, 2 inches, 1.5, so I'm going down by my by the length I want my band to be, and I'm going to just simply cut it, mark it, and then cut it out of the skate pattern. I'm going to, as I'm doing right now, just cut it out of the skate pattern, and I'm going to be showing you, because I'm not using it for this particular pattern. This is going to be a skirt without a band. Then I'm going to be showing you how to transform this into your band. I'm going to be cutting directly on a fabric. First thing to do is just to fold your fabric into 2. So this fabric is folded into 2, and then divide your waist measurement by 2 and mark, and then add 2 inches sewing allowance. This is to allow you to turn in your zipper allowance, and then turn in the edge of your 1.5 inch at least, to turn the zipper allowance with 1 inch, depending on what your zip allowance is. If my zip allowance is 1 inch, so I'm going to be adding 1 inch plus half that I will use to close up my band. So if yours is 2, you do 2 inch plus half for you to use and close up your band. So next thing is, whatever the length of the band that you made, whatever the length you want to use for your band, you are going to times it by 2. So that's, for me, it's 1.5 inch. So 1.5 inch times 2, that is 3 inches. plus 1 inch. That 1 inch is what you're going to be using as your sewing allowance on both sides. So I'm going to have 4 inches at the end of the day. By the time I remove, if I fold it to become 2 inches, so by the time I remove my 1.5 inch, I will have 1/2 inch to use as my joining allowance. So I will use 1/2 inch to join it back to the skirt. Now I've cut it out, and the next thing I'm going to do is to close it up and just iron it. That's basically what I'm trying to do here. Just iron it. And when you're done ironing it, you see I already have the front and the back piece, you get. So I'm going to now remove 1/2 inch just to give it that tightness. You know, sometimes when you finish sewing your skirt, is gaping by the waist. So I'm going to just remove 1/2 inch. I'm going to at the tip, so I'm going to form a slanted line. Just follow what I'm doing. I'll form a slanted line so that by the time I hold my zip, it's going to give me that, you know, fitted, snatched kind of look. So see, I'm giving you tips and tricks right here. So don't forget to subscribe and join me on this fashion journey. All right, so now we have our complete band. Next thing I'm going to do is just to measure to make sure that it is okay. So guys, look at my skirt.